All right, we will move on to the game you mentioned. New Orleans Saints at Atlanta Falcons. The quarterbacks here are 10th best matchup for Derek Carr. Where the hell is Atlanta? 24th best matchup for Kirko. I still imagine he's higher in my rankings. This is going to be an interesting one because I think Derek Carr, actually, they're back to back 22nd for Carr, 23rd for Cousins. I think they're going opposite ways. I think Carr's going to, actually, Carr might stay there, but I think Kirk is going to start moving up from week to week. But for now, they're both low end QB2s. What do you guys have?
Yeah, I also have them back to back. They're QB 20 and 21 with the slight boost for Carr in the meantime, just because the offense has been really good. But yeah, so like they lost their center. It's going to be very important for the pass protection. See how it goes. Yeah, they're back in like mid-range QB2s from this week. I do worry about the matchup a little bit.
Yeah, Carr's at 19. I pushed him up above guys like Fields and Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson. Caleb Williams is like my litmus test week to week. He's even got a good matchup. But like we talked about, he threw the ball 50 plus times last week. That's not going to happen this week, even against a good Rams offense. So I have Carr above Caleb and Kirk below Caleb facing the Saints.
All right, the running backs, third worst matchup for Kamara, 22nd best matchup for Bijan. So we continue to see some bad matchups for good running backs. Bijan I have as my 3. Kamara falls all the way down to 8 behind Jordan Mason. Where do you guys have them? Still both top 12 for you? And assuming we're not interested in Tyler Algier, I guess as a desperation, 6-point projection. I have no interest in Jamal Williams, but so what do we think here? Bijan, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, Bijan just has a little bit better role, so I'm always going to rank him above Kamara. But Kamara's played so far above expectation, it's just absurd. Like, it's RB3 and RB5, I think. I have Kamara one spot above Mason just because he's played New England, so a little bit worried about that. But yeah, like they're locked in for me.
Yeah, Kamara's my 2, Bijan my 5. I'm debating Bijan or Connor this week. Given their matchups, I might move James Conner ahead of him, but Bijan is top 6 still.
Receivers, mediocre matchups for both 18th and 19th, respectively. I think these are going to be close. I have Olave at 15 and London at 19. Shaheed is probably the only other one I have ranked. I'm going to have to scroll a bit. I know he didn't play well last week. I have him down at 31, so a low-end 3. What do you guys got here? Is it just basically the 3 of them?
You could also throw out Mooney, too. Like, Mooney's been the second option of that offense. So I know the Kyle Pitts stuff we can talk about. Like, I would rather start Mooney over Kyle Pitts based on his usage and involvement with the team. I have Mooney as like a top 40 wide receiver, and it's really not going to change until that changes. So Shaheed's above him just because he's an explosive monster. He's like 33. Mooney's at 40. And then, yeah, both those guys are like mid-range wide receiver 2s. Olave could push it to wide receiver 1. Like, he's that good.
Yeah, love Olave this week. He is my wide receiver 13, so right on the cusp, like you mentioned. Rashid, I'm going back to the well here and flexing Rashid Shaheed. He dropped those 2 long bombs, one that was a clear-cut touchdown if he's just able to haul it in with a hand kind of in his face. He doesn't have the greatest hands, but he has the speed, and against that Atlanta secondary, which is not super daunting, I think he's going to be able to get behind them again. But that said, yeah, if you need these guys, Mooney, even Ray, who's getting the targets, which is weird. They're a lot closer to Drake London, unfortunately, than we want to admit at this stage of the season. So Olave, London, and then Shaheed, and maybe the other guys.
5th best matchup for Pitts, 12th best matchup for Juwan Johnson. I have Pitts at tight end 6. I am still going back to the well here. Juwan Johnson, I have quite a bit lower. I have him down in the low 20s. So I guess you could also include Taysom Hill in here, who's probably the upside. Well, one's got more upside, but Juwan Johnson seems to have more red zone touchdowns. I don't know. It's Kyle Pitts for me here at 6, and no thank you to the rest. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if you're playing Saints tight end, just play the one you think is going to score a touchdown, because that's what you're shooting with that tight end room. I know I've been down on Pitts. It's really hard to rank him outside the top 10 tight ends just because the tight end position sucks. So he's like tight end 8 for me, and you just live with it. Like, it's kind of just is what it is.
Yeah, And the Saints were historically really good against tight ends over the last, decade. Now in the early season, they are the 5th worst against tight ends, giving up those fantasy points to them. So they're clamping down elsewhere, right? They're still a good defense, but they've kind of been allowing the tight ends to eat a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Pitts has a decent game, but it's not going to be exceptional. So he's my tight end 6.
Somebody must follow Derek Brown.
Before we get into
Ooh.
Before we get into the next game, I like that. I don't hate this. I think Eric All in his limited time has looked actually pretty damn good. He looks super athletic. And if you assume that Mike Gesicki's going to be gone next year, possibly T. Higgins, I think Eric All for a 25-second could be awesome.
It's fine. I would say just instead of doing this, just go buy Njoku for a second. Like why play the projection game with Eric All? Like you're basically paying what you expect him to do. You don't have to do that. Go get a guy that produces or Ferguson. You could probably get. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't mind it.
That's the problem. I think you have to pay a first for Ferguson or Njoku.
I don't think so.
I think so. I wouldn't trade them away on any of my teams for a second.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's giving me a first for Njoku or Ferguson, I'll gift wrap them and send them to you happily. So here you go.
Yeah, I mean, the second is too much, but I get it if you really feel strongly about a player. That said, I'm not paying that price. I think I feel strongly about him. I picked him up in a few leagues off of waivers. I have him stashed in, 1 or 2 more on the taxi, but yeah, that's a bit much.
No, it wasn't me. I don't have any shares of him. I agree. It's more than I would have paid. I think you could have got him for a third. I would have happily paid a third. If I'm in a rebuild and I have an abundance of picks, I might have paid a second. I guess it depends on where the second is. I feel much more comfortable with a third, but I don't hate it for a second. I don't love it, but